Thank you, Kanye West, for that awesome intro. Welcome to Tech Tac Toe. Yeah, it's a bit of a tongue twister, but we're excited that you're joining us for our first episode. I'm Nikhil Gola.
And I'm Josh Berne.
And this is Tech Tac Toe. Here we hope to learn more about the tech space and how businesses are adapting to the digitally transforming world. Our episodes will center on how MBAs can drive value in tech and beyond.
Yeah, so while we've been, recruiting and doing research for jobs in the tech space at Duke's Fuqua School of Business.
I wonder if we should be doing some recruiting stuff right now.
That's probably fine. That's probably fine. We found that there was a lot of great information out there for what MBAs do after they graduate. And similarly, there's a lot of fantastic websites and podcasts out there discussing the newest technological innovations. However, we didn't find a lot of resources combining both of these ideas.
Yeah, so we hope to merge these ideas on this podcast. Prior to business school, I was a management consultant.
Yeah, and Josh here, I was working in the analytics space for credit card companies.
And we have a lifelong passion for tech. So today's topic is keeping big tech nimble.
Which we all know sounds like the name of an overpriced Pilates class in San Francisco.
Yeah, well, amazing new technologies such as virtual reality and machine learning are becoming fundamental to the products we interact with and disrupting the offerings of larger, more established companies. So we're wondering how these established companies are incorporating these technologies into what they're working on to stay ahead of the curve.
Yep. So we're here to chat with a few MBA grads and current students who are doing cool shit in the tech space at larger companies.
Okay, so we're cursing here.
Yeah, we're going to be one of those podcasts, as well as a few second years at our school.
All right, cool. So here's a rundown of how the podcast will work generally. We're going to have one-on-one interviews with folks that are in the tech space right now driving business change. And we're also going to have panel sessions with second-year students who have had internships at tech companies in the past and that can provide their viewpoints as well. So thanks a lot for joining us. Hope you're looking forward to this show. It should be a great one. Thanks.
Thanks again.
Our first guest is Chris Haberle, a 2013 graduate of Fuqua School of Business. Chris has been at Microsoft for about 5 years. He entered Microsoft in a finance-related role, and he made the switch to product management about 2.5 years ago. Chris currently does product strategy within the Windows Next engineering team, with a heavy focus on mixed reality. So thank you so much for being with us today, Chris. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, guys. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great. How do you feel to be the first guest on Tech Tac Toe?
There's been a lot of really fun and important accomplishments in my life, but this is absolutely the top of the list at this point.
That's what we like to hear.
Our agent, your agent, we're just happy that we could get it together. Just happy we could finally bump heads. Yeah, so, just really top of the house. The premise of this episode, keeping big tech nimble. Really, these big tech companies, there's a lot of big innovation coming in. So why did you choose coming out of business school to go to a large tech company as opposed to a startup following business school? And what's kept you at that large tech company?
I think there's a lot of similarities in between how you pick a company and in some ways how you pick where you go to business school. I think there's a lot of tangible things that you think about. So when you think about business school, you probably look at the rankings, you look at the some of the people that you meet, you look at where the job placement is. Those are some very tangible things, and those same things apply to the company. You probably look at the financial statements and what they say in the news about the company, but I think there's a lot of intangible things that are really, really important as well. And so for me, looking at recruiting and coming out, I focused a lot on the people that I met and how they made me feel about the company and how they felt about the company. I got a really strong sensation with Microsoft and a lot of the alums that I met through my recruiting process, and just felt really great about it. I felt a lot like when I was going through my business school process. And so, I think that's been a really big part of it, and certainly I've been challenged and pushed to every degree possible. It's been a great experience for me. And I think in a big company, you can also choose your career path a little bit better, right? There's more roles, there's more functions, There's bigger organizations, and so you can go deeper on certain activities. I myself have switched from finance to marketing, and now I sit in engineering, and I think that would have been really difficult without sort of engineering background to do that in a startup. So all in, I think probably having the breadth of experiences is really important to me, and the intangible factors were really important as well. And I should note, all the things that I say today are my opinions and don't represent Microsoft, but certainly I've had a great experience here.
Awesome. Yeah. Got to get that disclaimer in there. And so you've been at Microsoft for a while, and like you said, you made a transition into mixed reality, which is a pretty cool new field. Maybe you want to talk about your process in determining how you made that move. What factors did you think about when you were moving into mixed reality?
Sure. Before business school, I had a financial services background, and so I started in finance as a natural bridge when I moved into tech. And after a couple of years, I decided that I absolutely wanted to get closer to product, and that was about all I knew that I wanted. So at the time, we had just announced the existence of the HoloLens project at Microsoft, and just was entranced by it and couldn't get enough news. So I really just sought out the team that was doing that and tried to find a way in for myself. Fortunately, they needed somebody who could put a business around the product. And the fit was there, and so I was really excited to kind of get in on the absolute ground floor of mixed reality. And so here we are, a handful of years later. You have all sorts of different devices coming out. You have people making apps against mixed reality products. And so it's fun to see that ecosystem to develop. But for me, it was really just wanting to work a lot closer on product and one that excited me and had a lot of potential.
Great. Looking and talking to prospective MBA students, a lot of them are asking, getting an MBA, going into tech, how and why an MBA going into tech? How have you really found your MBA experience being prevalent in the tech industry, specifically in a big tech company?
I think one important thing to note about bringing your MBA to the tech world is that because you have an MBA, it doesn't get you anything. Meaning, now that you've checked this box, you aren't entitled to anything. The way I look at it is, business school taught me a whole bunch of things that have been very helpful for me, and I think have put me on a better track at Microsoft. And so, I think the first thing is knowing how to find information on something and get smart on it very quickly. Right, in business school, there's a million things that you have to do on a daily basis. There's not enough time for any of them. And so learning how to put a time box around learning about something to where you can get up to speed and speak conversely about it, and then finding an expert on that subject has been just a really good skill set to build. And so as a result, I think a lot of the learnings from the classroom in business school have been really helpful too. So just learning tools and mental models in class that are quickly recallable, whether it be via class notes or notes you took yourself, or even just stuff that you remember, have been really helpful for me in framing up the way I think about things. And secondly, I think the networking muscle that you build in business school is absolutely really important. So in business school, you spend most of your time trying to meet this goal of having this great job when you graduate, right? Like there's this finite point in time where you need to have a job, be gainfully employed, and make the money. And so most people network their tail off during business school, and then they get to work and they stop. And they focus on impressing the 5 people they work closest with, which is very important. But it's also important to continue to build your network and to continue to amplify the good work that you're doing. And ultimately, nobody ever applies to be the CEO because they saw a job listing online or because somebody told about it. They're sought after because of their years of great work, the many people that they've given their time and efforts to, and because they've just proven themselves over a long period of time. And so I think it's really important to continue not just continuing to network once you get into a job, but actually accelerating that both for your betterment and also to help your work and to get things done.
Awesome. Interesting stuff. So I guess we would like to know, as MBA students, we're all trying to stay ahead of the game, especially, considering that we're focused in on tech, and a lot of the companies that we have today aren't going to be here tomorrow. How do you personally stay up to date on the newest technologies in your industry? What are some resources that you use that might be helpful to us?
Sure. There's plenty out there to read. I think over the past handful of years, the proliferation of podcasts and blogs and email lists has been crazy. And so the nice advantage that we all have is just an astounding amount of content out there.
This is going to be the newest podcast, for the record. Shameless plug.
Add it to the list.
Yeah.
So I think the way I stay up to date, it's kind of a split of blogs and email lists, and then podcasts and books. So the sort of daily, weekly blogs and email lists, probably the top ones that come to mind is Stratechery by Ben Thompson. That's one. As soon as that email comes in, I'm reading that one. Farnham Street is also a great blog that I read. It sort of focuses on how to think about things, how to apply mental models to problems. And then Mattermark Daily is actually a great aggregator of various product-focused articles or just really popular articles around the tech scene. So I think those are probably the top three that I read on there. Podcasts, the Exponent podcast is done by the author of Stratechery. That's an immediate listen, as is the A16Z podcast. And then there's a million books you can read. If you do a quick search, you'll find a million lists of what CEOs are reading or what the top VCs are reading. And they're all good stuff, but I think probably the top ones that have made an impact on me are High Output Management, The Hard Thing About Hard Things, and then The 4 Steps to the Epiphany.
Great. No, really appreciate it. So just want to end with one kind of final question regarding that, keeping big tech nimble idea for, a lot of our listeners, these either current MBAs, prospective MBAs, thinking about, I want to work for this big tech company, this Microsoft, Google, Amazon. My concern might be, I don't want to be in this, just working on this one project or this one item. What factors would you give our listeners as they're making this decision for this big tech versus this potential kind of, smaller tech company or this startup?
Yeah, I think it's important to have an opinion on what things you want to work on. One filter is if you think about if you want to work on enterprise versus consumer. They're very, very, very different ways of acquiring customers, of selling to customers. And so I would do a little bit of research on just understanding those motions and which one appeals to you more. They're very, very opposite. And so that's one way I would do it. But secondly, I would also say there's a lot of companies that do both of those things. We're one of them. I've worked on a lot of enterprise things. I've worked on some consumer things as well. And it's important to remember that technology changes fast. And so wherever you find yourself, if you found yourself in the wrong product or the wrong group, it's a fast-changing world. And there's a lot of companies that are popping up every day. And so I think it's very simple if you set your mind to it and network appropriately to find yourself on something that you really actually do want to do. So nothing is permanent in tech. It's always changing. And so wherever you start, it's certainly not going to be where you finish.
Great.
Awesome. Hey, Chris, thank you so much for the time. I got to say, we visited Seattle about a month ago. Fuqua did, and Chris hosted about 80 of us students across an entire afternoon. And so, Chris, you're a huge asset to the Fuqua community. So glad you were able to be with us today.
And most importantly, when we were there, he made sure there was not a cloud in the sky.
Yes.
Which October in Seattle is hard to come by. So always appreciated.
Well, thanks a lot, guys, and I'll have you know that the following Friday it was snowing. So.
Awesome. All right, well, thank you very much, Chris. Have a good rest of your day. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
All right, our next guest is Bart Bradshaw. He works at Intel, and he joined Intel from Fuqua's School of Business in 2015. He joined Intel in the Accelerated Leadership Program to find growth opportunities at the company, and he's done some pretty cool things since then. Bart, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Great. Yeah, thanks so much, Bart. So, really the premise of today's episode, keeping big tech nimble. So what is Intel doing to And what are you doing within your job as a manager to determine what new technologies to invest and move forward with?
It's a great question, and Intel does a lot, so I'll try to summarize. But basically, every company, we look at ROI. We look at the ROI and how something fits into our corporate portfolio strategy or specific BU strategy, business unit strategy. But we've got specific groups that actually look at, what are the trends in the marketplace. We've got a market watch group that bubbles those types of trends and puts together reports and presents them to the executives. So some top-down thinking on what's going on out in the marketplace in terms of technology, where's society going. We have a group called Intel Labs that most people have probably heard about if they've looked into Intel at all. Intel Labs is a massive organization with a lot of really, really smart people, both technologists and anthropologists. They're studying societies, they're studying the norms and values, as well as where technology is going and how technology and people intersect. We've really done some cool stuff in that area, and we're thinking 5, 10, 20, 50 years out on some of that stuff. That bubbles up as well to executives or to business units. Business units are all looking to serve specific markets, and they also have pathfinding teams, others who are looking at how do we move forward on the technology of our current products, how do we do new use cases in new markets or expand our product portfolios. So I've had the opportunity to be a part of basically a focus on a new market and figuring out how can Intel go and play in that market. It was agriculture, and we've still got that segment going based on an initial business strategy and plan that I put together. I've moved on to other things since then, but it's really fun to see the company move forward, both on a technology level, but also just figuring out how do you find that perfect product market fit and not just focus on cool new technology, but really how that technology can help different market segments and help people.
Great.
So if we pivot a bit and we're thinking about our core audience, your average MBA student or your prospective student or any of our fans around the world who are interested in what the MBA offers, maybe you can tell us a bit about how your MBA experience has helped you in the tech field and what it's added in terms of value for your career.
Sure. So my background before business school was in the tech sector primarily. So, and I did a couple of different functional areas. So I felt like I was coming into business school with a decent business acumen and a decent understanding of, for example, finance and accounting and sales and business development. But at the same time, what's nice about business school and Fuqua in particular is you have a lot of flexibility to really round out your business acumen and really round out your understanding of how those skill sets kind of fit together and how to look at things from a general manager type of perspective so that you understand how everything fits together. And you have the confidence to then go out and say, I know how to analyze this, from a financial perspective, from a strategy perspective. I know how to put it all together and create a new business. And that's what I'm passionate about. And that's some of the classes that I focused on at Fuqua was, entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial strategy, entrepreneurial finance, as well as strategy in general. Marketing, all of those classes come together to really help you be a very well-rounded person in the business world. And then if you want, you can focus on a functional skill set and really go after that, but it's great to have that well-rounded perspective wherever you are, whether you're in a very specific, finance role or product management role. Whatever you're doing, it really does help to understand those different functions and be able to have the confidence that you've kind of worked with the different tools and analyzed things in different ways so that you can speak knowledgeably to basically whatever you come up against.
Yeah, very interesting. So that's actually a great segue to our last question. You spoke about taking entrepreneurial classes and classes about starting up a company, yet you've been, since you graduated from business school, working for this, huge, silicon maker. I'm looking at the sticker on my laptop as we do this interview. Why did you choose to go to this, huge tech behemoth, and why are you staying with this tech company while, living in Arizona, commuting to Santa Clara pretty frequently? You have probably so many startups that you could go join and be a part of. Why stay with such a large tech company when there's so many startup opportunities?
It's a good question. So I love startups. I also feel like there's a lot to learn at bigger companies. And when you can mix the two, to have, a company like Intel where the resources are just unparalleled, the amount of expertise and engineering know-how and all the things that a big company offers, there's just a lot in terms of things that I felt like I could learn. And there's also opportunities within big companies to focus on that entrepreneurial, innovative edge, trying to expand into new markets, into new product categories, all that kind of thing. So it's been a really nice marriage of the two for me, where I can learn the things I want to from a big company, as well as, obviously have the steady paycheck. I don't think Intel's going away anytime soon. I have a family, so that definitely appeals to me. But also, I love being able to figure out how to make something work within that larger company setting. The group that I'm in right now, it's an artificial intelligence software, and it was an acquisition that Intel made a couple of years ago. And it is fascinating to be part of a huge company, but also part of a startup. So it's a really fun mix of the two. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying I'll be at Intel forever. I'm not saying I won't. But right now, I'm really happy, and I love that I get to do a little bit of both.
Yeah, it sounds like an awesome place where you can balance both and really drive some innovation. So, no, we want to thank you on behalf of Tic-Tac-Toe for taking time out for us. We really appreciate your insight and giving us a view into how Intel works and your experience there.
Yeah, thanks so much, Bart. And when Kara Swisher reaches out to you to be on her Recode Decode podcast, you have us to thank, obviously. So thank you so much.
And Josh, it's been a pleasure. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you very much. We're back, and we are here for our second year panel of Tic-Tac-Toe. Thank you guys for joining us. I want to do some quick introductions. So first up is Sachin Thakur. He is a computer engineer by trade. He worked as a consultant prior to Fuqua. He interned with Microsoft's Cloud and Enterprise Group this summer in Redmond. He was involved with building a product launch plan and a go-to-market strategy for a cloud-based advanced analytics product. Sachin,
Nikhil.
Thanks for being here. Number 2, we got Scott Covington. Scott interned at Apple this past year in product operations. He worked on a cost reduction project. That's pretty much all we can tell you because Apple is pretty secret.
Locked down.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes, but I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Scott. All right, and our third panelist, Omar Chehab. He entered at Cisco over the summer and in the switching business unit, which is the largest and most profitable business unit at Cisco. So that's pretty awesome. It has almost $15 billion in revenue. Yeah. So over the summer, Omar was working on a new strategy to compete in the SMB space. What's the SMB space for us who don't know?
Small and medium businesses.
Got it. All right, Omar, thank you for being here.
Well, happy to be here.
Yeah, very good stuff. And we should also say that these guys are missing the beginning of the Duke-Michigan State basketball game. So we cannot thank them enough. This is top priority at Duke, so much appreciated. So, to kind of go along with this, keep big tech nimble. When you guys, a few months out of where we're in our shoes, you had these job offers and you were kind of looking at, maybe a few months down the road, maybe this startup comes around, gives you an opportunity to potentially drive big change there, but then you see this big tech company and that internship. What made you kind of, really, really bite the bullet and pursue this big tech opportunity?
Yeah, so I can start off, Omar, here. So what drove me to Cisco specifically is the ability to drive change in a very large company. Cisco right now is in a very good point where it needs to switch between hardware to software. Hardware being the old business model, had a lot of success there, but it realizes that it needs to shift to more of a software-based approach. Everything is moving to software, so Cisco needs to do that too. They are also moving into SaaS, which is software as a service in a subscription revenue model to move the revenue forward. So it's a great opportunity for me right now, and for a lot of people to learn what worked well in the past, what will work well in the future, and to drive change. That is what led me to Cisco at the core.
Awesome, interesting stuff.
Sachin, what about you?
So I drove towards Microsoft because its mission. I felt sort of attachment to the mission that to empower every person and organization in the world to achieve more, and that for me was really a personal thing because I'm passionate about technology and the kind of push that we have seen in Microsoft when it comes to technology like AI, analytics, IoT. So these are technology areas that I was really passionate about and saw this is where I want to work on.
And then this is Scott. So when I was kind of thinking about big versus small company, I had an unconventional background. I was in the military for 8 years before, and I think a lot of the small startups would look at me and maybe not know what to do with me. But if they see a company like Apple on my resume or something like that, it'll build credibility, and they'll realize I can understand and know how tech works. So I was most excited about a big company, get my feet wet for a few years, really understand tech, and then see what happens from there. And maybe I'll look at startups in a few years.
So when you had kind of looked at your first year in your MBA, can you kind of relate to an experience within that first year of your MBA that impacted the project you were working on, or something that you did during your internship that helped drive change within this summer at your company?
A lot of my summer experience was actually relatively similar to my military experience in terms of operations, but there were some things that the operations class, I understood when we said whip, what that meant. I understood kind of the overall scale, and then just kind of some of the operations policies, procedures, and just vocabulary that you're going to use, and then scaling that up to large volumes. It was a little easier to understand. I didn't do a bunch of raw calculations, but even knowing the vocabulary, talking to the people that are maybe doing the calculations and analysis was important.
So during summer, I was involved in developing the product launch plan for a new analytics-based product offering at Microsoft. And coming with engineering background, I haven't done product launch plan or go-to-market strategy ever before. So for me, it was altogether an experience, and how I brought innovation to the process was to simply people are so open to giving feedback and giving inputs. So what helped me drive the project was to integrate different opinions from different teams and build a launch plan that was more comprehensive. So I think that was my value add.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Sachin. In terms of past experiences that has led my internship or has led my internship, I agree with you, Sachin, that our work here in Fuqua is very important for team building in our internship companies. we have our CLE teams. We deal a lot with our CLE teams. Some CLE teams are different than others. People are different. You get to know how to deal with people and negotiate with people and really understand what is at the core important to them. From that, you can think about managing without influence or driving change or asking people to do something that they do not want to do. Other than team building experiences here at Fuqua, I did take a lot from our core classes and our elective classes to drive change in Cisco. I'll give you guys an example. Market strategy, great class. Every single one of, I personally think it's supposed to be a core class because of how important it is. But what is important is that it teaches you about how to build strategy to launch a product. Not just launch a product, how to sell the products, like different channels. What channels can you take? If you have channel conflicts, how to manage that conflict, how to change and drive change within an organization. Very valuable class, highly recommend it if anyone wants to take it.
Omar, that was marketing strategy with Christine Mormon?
It is.
Okay, cool.
It is.
I took it as well. Also, thumbs up.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to sign up for it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Awesome. This is great. All right, so Scott, this question's for you, and of course, Sachin and Omar, feel free to chime in. But because, Scott, you come from a non-traditional background, we're ramping up. We would love to hear how you ramped up for your big tech interviews, and of course, any insight that you guys could also provide in what you saw was successful in ramping up, and working with folks, of course, during your internships, probably with folks who had non-traditional backgrounds. What were their keys to success?
It's a good question. So most of the people in my group were previous engineers, got their MBA, and then joined our team. So ramping up in terms of recruitment season for non-traditional backgrounds, it's a lot of work and sweat and tears. So really, you've got to. So some of the tech companies, and I think a lot of the companies, and everyone can chime in. Networking's not a big thing. It's not that huge. I've already talked to some of the first years, but really, if you're doing a cover letter, you really need, I think, for all the companies, say why that company and why tech. You really need to show a big passion for tech. And I've always been a computer nerd, so I think I was able to show that at least in some capacity. Then I think, and I was just cheating on Omar's notes, a lot of just being familiar with the tech industry. So for me, it was Google News alerts, which I stole from Omar, setting those up on the companies you're interested in. But then also, so there's podcast, Daily Tech News Show. It's almost as good as this podcast. But Daily Tech News Show has two different podcasts, but they cover the daily news headlines every day, and it almost seems like they just do Google News alerts, but then talk about them. So that was good just to get some ideas of what's happening in the industry, and then reading 10Ks. They're kind of painful, but just going through them, seeing what's on them, what's important, mission, vision. Some companies have it, some companies don't. And then I think one of my good classmates gave me advice. It's from actually a Steve Dalton lecture, if everyone remembers it. But when you're getting asked the why question, really use the AP, or I recommend, and I've had some success, but also some failures with the APT format. So assertion, proof, and tieback. So I'm excited about, I've loved tech all my life because when I was 3, I taught my dad how to use a Macintosh 2. So that's kind of the assertion. That's also the proof in that I've loved it. And the tieback is, I spent 8 years in the military, but now excited to join in the tech world. So the assertion, proof, tieback, I think is a good format for why. And final thing, as a non-conventional background, is first year, and I'm learning second year, is a marathon. So the busiest time of the year for me, even going to a big tech company, was the month after spring break. I didn't get my first offer till April 1st. So some people nail down jobs, some people nail down tech jobs in January, February probably. But a lot of people, it doesn't start happening until April. So keep working at it. Even the big companies come around late.
Yeah, Scott, I totally agree with exactly what you said, 100%. I would like to stress 2 things that you said. which is number one, research the company, research. It is very important for you to bring in the knowledge. Like the recruiter wants to know that you know about the company, you know about the mission, you know about who's in it, like why they're doing it. So very much research about the company, set up the Google alerts, go on The Verge, read about it, 10Ks, TechCrunch, all the above. And then the second thing that I'd like to stress from what you said is the tie back. Everyone needs to find out what their value add is for the company. The company won't hire you just because you're a great candidate. There has to be a reason what you offer to the table that is compelling enough for them to hire you. That's an important thing that many people struggle to find, the value add, but it is very crucial to every single interview out there.
So since both of them touch base on what to do for tech recruitment, I'll touch on Nikhil's point, like how important diversity is in tech companies. They're looking for people with diverse background. Because during my internship, I interacted with people with non-tech background more than I interacted with engineers, and learned a lot because they bring completely new perspective to the people, and that's the reason tech companies are actively pursuing people with non-tech background.
Awesome.
I want to jump in one more thing. Also, probably the 3 to 5 biggest tech companies, you can mostly rely on GTS, but after you get out of that number, look on other websites. So even Facebook, they'll have one thing on GTS and they'll have 10 different internships. So Facebook and these gigantic companies, a lot of them, they know how powerful they are. They don't necessarily want to deal with CMC and GTS, or they may or may not want, but it's just more convenient to go to their website. So really, a lot of it is off-campus recruiting. Even the big websites don't assume they're on GTS. Go to their websites and check, and the smaller companies even more so.
That would be a different opportunity to learn more about the company, right?
Exactly.
Deep research.
Yeah, and to all of our listeners worldwide who don't go to Fuqua and don't know what GTS is.
Don't know what a C lead.
Don't worry about it.
GTS is.
Don't worry about it. All right, I got to
Still apply.
Yeah. Well, hey, thank you so much, folks. Sachin, Omar, Scott, our resident second years here at Fuqua, getting their MBAs. Thank you so much for the time. This has been our panel for Tech-Tac-Toe. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much for having us here.
Thanks. Alrighty, that'll do it for today's show. Appreciate you listening in to Tech-Tac-Toe. Hopefully you learned something new. I sure know I did. If you have any feedback, ways to improve the show, general pats on the back, feel free to reach out to us at techtactoepod@gmail.com. Until the next show, stay well, take it easy. Peace.